Thanks everybody for joining us today. We're going to wait a few minutes for the webinar to populate and we'll get Dr. Kell started here in about 30 seconds. Okay, Dr. Kells, take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Kells, and I'd like to welcome you to the first of two webinars on NIFA Grant Programs, sponsored by the Weed Science Society of America. WSSA is a nonprofit professional society. Our mission is to promote research extension and education related to weeds, to provide science-based information to public and to policymakers, and to foster awareness of weeds and their impacts on managed and natural ecosystems. Our society publishes 3 journals: Invasive Plant Science and Management, Weed Science, and Weed Technology. We also are affiliated with 8 other professional weed science societies, including 4 regional US societies of the International Weed Science Society, the Canadian Weed Science Society, and the Aquatic Plant Management Society. We have 4 presenters today that you'll be hearing from. They'll each be speaking for about 10 minutes, and this will be followed by 15 minutes of questions and answers. Please use the Q&A widget at the bottom of your screen to submit questions to the panel. You'll notice that the webinar is being recorded. We'll be posting the recording on the WSSA website, and it will be publicly available. Our first presenter today is Dr. Mathieu Ngouajio. Dr. Ngouajio is a national science liaison in the Institute of Food Production and Sustainability within NIFA. So Dr. Ngouajio, you can take it from here.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Thanks for the introduction. I would like to share my screen here with the group. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to come and share some of our NIFA program with our colleagues. This first presentation is going to focus on organic weed management programs. So just focusing on NIFA programs that offer opportunities for weed management in organic systems. So we all know that the organic industry or the organic sector has been growing very fast over the last 2 decades. And for us to sustain that growth in organic sector, we need a strong investment in both research and innovation. And we have been doing that at NIFA through our organic program to fill in a gap in research, education, and extension. For us at NIFA, most of our programs are open to organic agriculture. That is, however, I'm going to just focus today on 2 programs that are specific to organic agriculture. And I do know that our interest today is not just organic agriculture, but it is weed management. So the organic program that we have, they will cover every production systems, whether it is open field production or greenhouse production or indoor. We cover all those production systems. Our organic program are also open to all weed management strategies in organic system. So the only common denominator there is organic system, and then you can do any weed management strategy that you can think of within the framework of our program. I will be sharing with you today 2 programs. The first one is the Organic Transitions, ORG. It's a $7.5 million program And the focus of that program is for those people who are transitioning from conventional systems to organic practices. So that's why we call it organic transition. The second program is ORAI, the Organic Agriculture Research and Extension Initiative. It's a $30 million program for 2022. And the focus of that other programs is to focus on systems that are already that have already received the organic certification. Not only the program differ in terms of scope, in terms of funding, but as you can see, the eligibility for those two programs is also very different. For the organic transitions, it's only open to colleges and universities. But for ORAI, every single US citizen can apply to that program. Now you will ask me, what are the priorities of all those two programs? We try to keep the two programs separate. However, there's a significant overlap. And where we have that overlap is for all activities that focus on production efficiency, productivity, profitability, and competitiveness. When you are focusing on those things, you can send your project to either programs. But we tend to focus the organic transitions on things like ecosystem services, and then ORAI on everything related to operating organic systems. But this is not actually where I want to go. I want to focus more on what is a need for a weed scientist. So as a weed scientist, if you look at the RFA, the request for application for those two programs, you will see specific language there for weed scientists. This is not always the case for most of our program, but the organic community wanted us to send a strong message to the weed science community that this is a home for many of their research activities. For the organic ORAI, if you look at the call on page 7 and 8, you can see there that we want to look for projects that will help us develop and address issues, including weeds in organic systems. Weed, clearly labeled there. If you look at the organic transitions, we also on page 8 of the RFA, the priorities that we want to understand weed dynamics for a better management of organic crops. Another priority say that we also want to overcome barriers to organic transition. And what are those barriers? The most recent publication by the Organic Farming Research Foundation show that in 2022, organic weed management remained the top priority of the industry. So it's a critical need, weed. Now, just looking at ORAI to tell you that really this is an opportunity for you as a researcher. Look at the budget. It has increased from 20 million to 30 million this year. And next year, the budget will go to 50 million. So there's opportunity there to get to fund a lot of projects. And what type of project do we fund? For ORAI, we have 3 types of integrated projects called Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. And all that is clearly explained in the RFA. Tier 1 project, which is large scale project, multidisciplinary, we can fund up to 3 million a project. For Tier 2, up to 1.5, and Tier 3, up to 750,000. We also fund research or topics like curriculum development, conferences, and we are one of the only few programs at NIFA that fund planning grants. And for ORG, organic transition, only one grant type there, which is 750,000 each. We usually receive a lot of questions about the success rate of our program. Other than 2001, when we received 4 projects and funded 3, you can see there that on average, we are running about 24% success rate for that program, which is pretty high And with the increase in our budget, we may even have a higher success rate for this program. And the deadline for the RFA for 2022, those two RFAs are open. For ORAI is March 31, and for the organic transition is April 21. So the RFAs are open out there. And this slide is just to show you that we actually have a lot of weed scientists that are submitting projects to these programs and that are getting very successful. You will have a set of slides. Look at here, one there, someone using hydro mulch, getting 1.3 million, and many other people on the list, dealing with electric weed control, Canada thistle, wind management and organic system, looking at perennial species, and receiving close to 2 million for each proposal. So these are active projects. And I would say the success rate of weed scientists for this program is generally higher than the success rate for the whole program. So I will invite you to submit your application to those organic programs. And you have our contact information here, myself, the lead NPL for the program, my colleague, Dr. Steve Smith from Animal System. We have a program specialist in Nilja, and you have two division directors that oversee our NIFA organic programs. So with that, I will get back to you, Jim, and sit back for the questions.
Thank you, Dr. Ngouajio. The next presenter is Dr. Ganesh Bora, who is the National Program Leader in the Institute of Food Production and Sustainability. Dr. Bora.
Thank you. Can you see me?
Yes, you're coming through fine.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for attending the presentation, and I'll be covering precision ag technology funding resources in NIFA. I'm a national program leader in Ag System Divisions, working in precision agriculture, and I and Dr. Smith Thompson, we both work in the same area, and basically both of us work on those programs. Some of them I lead those programs, some of them Steve lead those programs. Yeah, just to give you, I think everybody knows we are in this Institute of Food Production and Sustainability, and you might know we fund a lot. It's close to $2 billion last year, and we are continuing increasing the funding. And basically, we look into two ways of funding. One is capacity grants. Those are mostly to universities and depending on their activities. And the other one is competitive grants, where you are most interested in getting those. And the main capacity grants are HETS project. Dr. Vance Owens look into the regular HETS project, and I look into multi-state HETS project funding, which is 25% of the total HETS funding. And Dr. Owens would be our next speaker. He looks into regular HETS projects. Those are basically university oriented and directly linked to the ag experiment stations. And we also go through everything peer review. I definitely ask you to be part of those peer reviews process, how different NIFA resources can be. Once this presentation is available, you might look into those websites and see how others. We're looking into AFRI, that's the competitive grant programs. And I'll be more focusing on ag systems and technology, especially of those. As Matt said before, like there are different kinds of grants, mostly standard grants, but we also look into seed grant. And if you have any new ideas, irrespective of what rank or what experience you have in the faculties, If you have a new idea, you can apply for seed grant, which is $300,000. Coordinated capped grants and conference grants are always 50,000 or less. And depending on which state and what you are in, strengthening grant, mostly for the minority serving and APSCO states, and also new investigator grants, which are quite a different pots of fund. And if you are 5 years into your faculty, have less publications, you are allowed to apply for new investigator grant, a standard grant, or new investigator seed grant. So that's a whole different funding resources among the new faculty members. What my and my team's specialties are mostly engineering, and we have in AFRI, we have 2 now engineering program for this year, FY 2022. We are looking into engineering for egg production and processing, and also engineering for crop management, where most of the wheat scientists might look into F1551 for precision crop and water management. And each grant is like 650 plus. If you are partnering with a minority serving institute, mostly 1890 land grant universities, or international partnership, international, you get 150,000 extra. That's for a partnership grant, and that's purely for that partner institute. We also, our division also work with NSF, and it's completely funded by NIFA, National Robotic Initiative, though it's subject matter wise for anything in the agriculture side, we fund it. We find normally 4 to 5 projects in National Robotic Initiative, which is the maximum of $1.2 million each grant. And similar, we go to cyber physical systems, which again work with NSF, and normal funding is $1.2 million. And these are purely decision taken by NIFA and funding coming from NIFA. We also fund AI Institute, and again working with NSF, AI Institute for Agriculture. We have funded 2 in 2020 and 2 in 2021. And those are like $4 million per year up to 5 years, so $20 million each grant. And right now we have one in UC Davis, one in Washington State, one Illinois, and one in Iowa State. And we also fund SBIR, Small Business Innovative Research, and also small and medium farms, which Dr. Iwadagi is the national program leader. And this is the brand new program we just started from this year, and it's a part of AFRI. It's a $1 million per year for 4 years. So each grant is $4 million grant. And for 4 years, I've linked the RFA, which is part of the present AFRI programs. It's looking into advanced technology, and like to have a demonstration farm on precision ag data connectivity using advanced technology, looking into greenhouse gas emissions and climate smart agriculture. Everything you can think in agriculture on the advanced technology uses, it can be here. So it's wide open, and we are looking into different regional sites, like if we can grant 4 projects in 4 different regions. And these are some of the deadline is 6th October for this one. And I'm leading the group, but we have 6 program leaders from different divisions, and which are providing funding to this group. And I definitely encourage you to work with NIFA as a peer reviewer and maybe program panel manager. Just give us a email, or nowadays you can directly go into NIFA, and this is a website you can register yourself as a peer reviewer. With that, I'll hold up to the questions till the end of the presentations, and these are our contact address. You can just give us an email at any time. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Dr. Bora. As a reminder, you can enter questions anytime in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. We've received one so far, so don't be hesitant to go ahead and add your questions to the list. Our next presenter is Dr. Vance Owens. He is a national program leader in the Division of Plant Systems Production. So Dr. Owens.
Yeah, thank you. Whoops. Can you, Jim, can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Well, and I'm sorry, I just lost the video screen, so I can't see myself even. I'll just go so we don't go over time, and I'll look for that in a minute. Sorry about that. I don't know what I even clicked on to make that disappear, because I can't find it down in my taskbar. So I'll come back to that in a second. So I'm going to talk about the Sustainable Agricultural Research and Education Program, and thank you for the opportunity to come and do this. This is a program that I would be willing to bet that many of you are familiar with. There, I found my video button. And we'll just go through it relatively quickly. You'll have copies of this slide later if you would like, and so you can read through this. As you can imagine, as you would expect, any projects that's submitted through the SARE program address some aspect of sustainable agriculture or multiple aspects. And here's the definition of sustainable ag as written in the legislation even. And so you can look at that. SARE is divided into 4 regions, and probably that are very similar to those in the Weed Science Society. The states might be off just a little bit. Each region has what is called a host institution. So at North Central, it's Minnesota, University of Minnesota. Northeast, it's at University of Vermont. South, it's at University of Georgia. And west, it is at Montana State University. The SARE model is pretty unique. I think Matt mentioned some of the uniqueness about the OREI, and SARE also is very unique. Part of that is the funding that NIFA provides actually goes to these host institutions, and then those host institutions are responsible for running a series. There's about 4 to 6 kind of common grant programs across each one of the regions, and they run those out of that host institution. So there's this regional focus that takes place within these. Each region has what's called an administrative council that will review projects that come in after they've also been reviewed by a technical review panel in order to select the best projects. But it's the host institutions who administer the grants. SARE Outreach is the organization or the entity that actually runs SARE's grant management system. So grants that are put in for any regional SARE application or proposals that are put in go through the SARE grant management system instead of grants.gov. If you think about doing a SARE project, I just let you know that the program addresses all 3 aspects of sustainability: environmental, economic, and social. Right now, there's probably a bit of an increased emphasis even on the quality of life or the social aspects of sustainability. I think that over the 30+ years that SARE has been in existence, or nearly 30 years, no, it's over 30, almost 35. That there's been a lot of emphasis on economic and environmental in particular, a little less on social sustainability, and I think that's increasing. SARE funding, as you can see here, is it increased over the year, and we just found out last week with the new FY22 budget that SARE funding went from 40 to 45 million, so it increased by $5 million in FY22. Similar to what Matt was describing on the OREI, the eligibility for the various types of grant programs within each region are quite open. One of the most common grant programs that you'll hear about with SARE is the Farmer Rancher Grant Program, which is literally designed to go to individual farmers and ranchers or groups of 2 or more that will pull together to put grants, to put proposals in. There's no restriction on the type of farming that takes place. I think sometimes there's a perception that SARE is funding only organic agriculture, but that's not how it is. It funds small farms, large farms, traditional farms, conventional farms, organic farms, or that kind of work. You name it, it actually can fund it. And it goes all along the production, the whole value chain. And so there are food safety proposals that have come in that are funded. Anyway, if you do a search on the SARE website, you will see that there are a lot of different types of proposals that have come in. Here are the grant types. The first, the R&E, or the research and extension, are the ones that are probably the most common to many of the 1862 or the land grant universities, but other entities have applied for those as well. I put kind of an average funding amount for these types of programs or these types of grants, but you'd have to check with on the regional website for each grant program to determine exactly the eligibility and exactly the funding amount or maximum, and then when their deadlines are running, because they're all running differently. I would point out that whether it's a research and education type of proposal listed at the top, or one of these professional development ones listed at the bottom, a train the trainer program, that we really like to have this kind of a grassroots development of these proposals. The train the trainer is taking a professional and training other ag professionals. So it's probably the least in that, but it's still going to get out to the farmer at some point or another. The other projects or types that you see there, very important to have cooperators, farmer cooperators from the start of the project, and even in the development of the proposal. That's one of the things that the reviewers will be looking for. Over the years, you can see that the research and education proposals have received the greatest amount of funding. Mainly, it's not because they've had more proposals or more projects that have been funded, but just simply the fact that the projects are larger in terms of the amount of in terms of the amount of funding. I did do a quick search on the grant management website, and we'll hopefully get to that in just a second. Just using the term weed management, so pretty broad, and saw over the last 10 years anyway, this number of projects and this funding amount that had gone toward projects that met this criteria. And as you can see across the regions, there's been a host of farmer rancher proposals that have been funded, graduate student proposals, and I probably would mention the graduate student ones in particular, since that's probably one of the more unique grant programs that the SARE program runs in each region, is these ones for graduate students, ranging from $15,000 to $20,000 for a graduate student. There's the on-farm research partnerships that have been pretty well funded, and that's usually a professional working on farm with some other producers. There's the professional development that I mentioned, and then the research and education, which again, even in this case, has received the most money over the last 10 years, somewhere between $2 and $3.5 million, depending on the region. And this is looking at projects specifically related to weed management. I was hoping to get here, and I would encourage you, when you get these slides, or to go to these websites. Here's the main website for SARE. This projects.sare.org. The nice thing about this website is that you can go in and if you click on search projects right here, this is also the place where you would submit a proposal and submit your reports afterwards if you did apply to the SARE program. But you can go in here, and this is where I had gone in, and under project report, I had typed in parentheses weed management. and I'd come up with that data that I just showed you. But one of the things that I wanted to show you here is that you can go to summary reports here at the bottom. And this is not, it's being updated as we speak, but I'm going to go down to the bottom again. And if we go to submitted proposal reports, starting in 2019, and I'll just go back to 20, you can go in and see within each region what the success rate and what the application numbers were for the various programs in each one of the regions. Most of the research and education, all of them actually in each region require a pre-proposal, but you can go in here and see that the success rate for a lot of these programs are actually very good. There's probably a low of about 20% on some of these on the graduate student grants, but they're usually higher than that. But especially with a pre-proposal being used, it's not uncommon to have the full proposal section be somewhere in the neighborhood of 40% success. And so please go in there and look at that. I put my contact information at the bottom of the screen. I put it smaller for the simple reason that really, if you want to find out about what's available regionally, go to the SARE website and then contact the regional coordinators for each of the grant programs in those regions. So I'll stop there. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Dr. Owens. We have one more presenter, and again, I will encourage all the participants to submit their questions. We're going to have a 15-minute Q&A that's going to start in about 10 minutes, and we need lots of questions. So please enter your questions now. The final presenter today is Dr. Vijay Nandula, who is a national program leader in the Division of Plant Systems Protection at NIFA. So Dr. Nandula.
Thank you, Jim. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank WSSA for this opportunity to speak to your membership about USDA NIFA competitive grant programs supporting research, extension, and education in weed science. So today I'm going to cover programs that address weed science as well as pest management that includes integrated pest management. So I'm going to talk about one program called the Applied Research and Development Program Area. It's part of the Crop Protection and Pest Management Program. And then I'll talk about the Critical Agricultural Research and Extension or CARE program of AFRI, the Tactical Sciences for Agricultural Biosecurity, another cross-cutting program in AFRI, and the methyl bromide transition. So I grade out 3 programs which have been covered earlier in this webinar, and the rest of them will be covered on March 29th in the second webinar. In addition to these programs, there are many additional plant science programs at NIFA that WSSA membership can look at. For example, in AFRI, we have agricultural microbiomes, pollinator health, SAS, plant biotic interactions, non-AFRI programs, and also other programs like the IR4 program, the SARE program that Vance just talked about, and the National Plant Diagnostic Network. The Crop Protection and Pest Management Program has the goals and objectives to address high priority issues related to pests, including weeds, using integrated pest management approaches at the state, regional, and national levels. So the CPPM has 3 program areas, one of which is the ARDP. It funds projects for the development of new IPM tactics, technologies, practices, and strategies through research, single-led projects, or IPM adoption through research-led projects, and IPM implementation through extension-led projects. So you could have research or majority extinction or majority research projects. And the annual RFA opens and closes in the second quarter of the fiscal year. Funding levels for this program range from 200,000 to 325,000 for projects from 2 to 3 years. This chart shows the total program area payments available under CPPM program from fiscal year 2014 to 2021. If you look at the ARDP in the purple block, which is in the middle, funding level has stayed pretty steady from 2014 through 2017 and increased to up to 5.6 in 2021. The success rate for ARDP has ranged from 16 to 38%, but generally 15 to 20% in the past several years. Here in this chart, the purple bars show the number of total proposals submitted to the ARDP program during each fiscal year. The pink bars show the number of awards funded, and the numbers with the green line show the success rate. If we break this down a little bit more with regards to weed science projects, this table shows weed science or awards related to weed science made during 2019, 2020, and 2021. So 3 years is not a long stretch to look at a trend, but generally speaking, number of weed science proposals that were awarded has gone up from 2 to 7. Some of the common themes across these projects include non-chemical weed control, integrated pest management, cover crops, using technology like geospatial databases, and also using STEAM application for weed and control of other pests and diseases in various cropping systems. One other program that I'd like to talk about fall under, or two programs, they fall under the Agriculture and Food Research Initiative Foundational and Applied Science Program. The AFRI is NIFA's flagship competitors program that provides funding for fundamental and applied research, education, and extension projects in the food and agricultural sciences. So in this RFA, NIFA requests applications under 6 AFRI priority areas through this program. Earlier, the previous speakers have talked about the 6 program areas, which are listed here. One program called the CARE program, or the Critical Agricultural Research and Extension, it's a cross-cutting program. There are many cross-cutting programs under AFRI. By cross-cutting, we mean that the programs address 2 or more of the priority areas mentioned before. The goal of this program is to address critical challenges and opportunities that research and extension together can address to improve the nation's agricultural and food systems. So the amount of funding available for this per grant is 300,000 for grants from 1 to 3 years. And the project types are mainly integrated only, which are a combination of research and extension components. The grant types are standard and phase, and the application deadline is September 15, 2022. If you need any further information, please contact me. This pie chart shows the breakdown of various disciplines in which proposals were funded. From 2014 to 2020, out of 391 proposals received, 130 projects were funded. That's a pretty high success rate of 33%. At a total funding level of $33.6 million. So I encourage you all to look at the CARE program in addition to the other commonly known programs such as ARDP, the Pests and Beneficial Species, the organic programs, and others. The Tactical Sciences for Agricultural Biosecurity is another cross-cutting program whose goal is to focus on increasing national capacity to prevent, rapidly detect, and respond to biological threats to the US agriculture and food supply. Again, the contact person is Dr. Amar Fayad, and the deadline is October 20th, 2022. One other program that you all may be familiar with, the methyl bromide transition. It addresses the immediate needs and the costs of transition that have resulted from the phase out of the pesticide methyl bromide. And the RFA, again, the closing date is March 17th, 2022. So as you can see, there are some additional opportunities for wheat scientists to look at. Again, thank you for your participation. And here's my contact information. And please feel free to contact me or any of the other NPLs for any information that you need or any of the programs that we have discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay. Well, that completes the 4 presentations for this webinar, and we now have about 15 minutes reserved for Q&A. So if you have any questions for any of the 4 presenters, please enter them in the Q&A widget. So I'm going to read a couple of these that I think would be good to have discussed with the whole group. One really great question was, these are all really great programs. Is there one website that explains all of the NIFA programs so I would know where to focus my attention? So would one of our presenters like to start by verbally answering that question?
I can do that, Jim, since I put the first link into the chat. So there is a website that I threw into the answer to those questions for looking at the various programs, and then Ganesh followed it up with another website that actually shows the proposed time, not a very to the day, but a time when a particular RFA we're hoping to have that out.
Yeah, I also give a link to the recent RFA for foundational programs, where most AFRI programs which are more interest of the wheat scientists are there. So I just gave that link also. That might be helpful.
Anything to add, Matthew?
No, I think Ganesh, the link that Ganesh put in there has a list of all the programs that we have at NIFA. And if you click on that, it will give you that list. And for each specific program, you just click and open that. So that is well done. Thanks, Ganesh, for dropping that link.
Okay, another question that was asked that I think could be addressed by Vance is the SARE program generally does not support proposals in major crops such as corn and soybean. So that was more of a statement than a question, I guess, but Vance, could you address that? And we need questions. So if any of you have any questions that you'd like to ask, now is your opportunity.
Yeah, there's absolutely no prohibition on a project that would include corn and soybeans. And I understand people not always being successful in applications. I've been through that too, but there's definitely not a prohibition. There may be at times, maybe there's a bigger ask at making sure that what is in the proposal is very demonstrably sustainable agriculture, and recognizing that a peer review panel will go through all of the proposals to evaluate them against the criteria that are in the RFAs that are coming out, from each region, as well as an administrative council that will then look through the slate of proposals that's put forward by that technical review panel in terms of what will be funded. But there's definitely the SARE program is really open to anything that you can imagine that is related to sustainable agriculture.
I just want to also add that in addition to all these NIFA programs, I encourage the membership to also look at other federal agencies like the NRCS, who have funded or are in the process of funding many projects in the cover crops arena.
And I just throw one more thing in, Jim. Sorry, I think it's where the SARE grant management system and that project website that you can go to do a search on types of projects that have been funded can really be helpful. I mean, I don't know how many people go and search on the CRIS website. I find it to be very challenging to navigate, but I will tell you that the SARE website is very helpful in terms of the commodities and the types of projects that have been funded.
Okay, very good. So another question.
Sorry, just to quickly add, we have been updating the NIFA website and all the links and everything. So if you go in there, there's a wealth of information. And if you can't find anything right away, please let us know. We'll look into that as well.
Okay, we're getting in some additional questions now. That's good. This is a question for Mathieu. Can Mathieu give an example or two of the types of projects funded by the Organic Transitions Program?
Okay, one of the, I would say that's a great question, but I will just give you what the priorities are calling for. In the Organic Transitions program, we have a priority called, barriers to organic transition. And weed management is the #1 top barrier to organic transition. So any project that you can submit to the Organic Transition Program and make the case that weed management is a barrier to organic transition, you will pretty much be, a perfect fit for that priority. We have found many projects, some on electric weed management, some on mechanical weed management, some on the use of cover crop for weed management. So I don't have just one example that I can share here, but actually we have funded a lot of projects through the Organic Transition. And like I said before, the success rate of the weed scientists and plant breeders is pretty high for this organic program. And something that I didn't show in my presentation is that the Organic Transitions Program 2021, the success rate was close to 60%. So we need more projects. Pretty much we funded almost everything that qualified and fell in the medium priority all the way to outstanding. Just because, again, a lot of our community, because OREI offered $3 million for each grant, most people tend to rush to OREI. And the Organic Transitions Program, we're not getting enough proposals there. So this is something completely new. All those who served on the panel last year were like, oh my God, I'm going to apply. I need to apply, given that high success rate. So I didn't answer exactly here, but I'm just want to say that pretty much anything that can be done for weed management will fit in organic transitions. But now the key is you need to work in organic system or in an organic transitioning system.
Okay, thank you, Mathieu. Another question that's come in. If a pre-proposal is approved under a NIFA grant program, can additional cooperators be added to a full proposal that were not part of the original pre-proposal?
Okay, I can tackle that one also. Yeah, a pre-proposal is really most of the time giving us heads up so that we can start designing the panel. Unless it is a program where it's telling you you can only submit if your pre-proposal is approved. Most of the time, once you submit your pre-proposal, You can change the team as you see fit, and we actually encourage you to do that. However, don't change the complete title of the project. Telling us, let's say, I'm going to do some research on mechanical weed control. And then we go out there and start looking for reviewers with experience in mechanical weed control. And then you come back later and say, no, in fact, I wanted to do something on chemical weed control. You see, it would throw us off completely. And in that case, we may not accept the full application. But you should improve your team, as you see fit. Add even objective as you see fit, but stay within the same framework that you sent to us.
Thank you, Matthew. Another question that's come in. Interest in precision weed management continues to grow. Is Ganesh familiar with any current projects on that topic?
Yes, precision weed management is not a standalone project, but in National Robotic Initiative, there has been a project in Nebraska and one in Iowa State, and this is kind of using robotics and image processing. This is like part of the project, not the whole project. And they're using, again, technology, and in all 4 AI institute, no, 3 of them, Davis did not have that, has a part on weed management because they're using robots in all these 3.
And I would add that this topic will be covered in the next webinar a week from today. So please come back and you'll hear more about opportunities related to precision agriculture next week.
Jim, there was a question for postgraduate and graduate training, and I just sent a link on Education and Workforce Development app-free program where pre-doctoral and postdoctoral fellowships are given in NIFA itself. So that RFA can give all details.
Yes, Ganesh. Jim, if I can go back to one of the early questions also about new investigator. I think that was the very first one. I think this is a point to stress again. The question was asking whether a postdoc, the time spent as a postdoc can penalize them when it comes to submitting a new investigator. And the answer was no. We only start the clock for new investigator when you get your first career position. That is when the clock starts. And that clock is, I think, up to 6 years after
5 years.
5 years after you obtain your first career position. But at the same time, like Ganesh was saying, if someone is a postdoc looking for opportunity, they are a full RFA for grants for postdoc. And it will also be good to compete for those grants that are specific for postdoc.
I might add what Matt said, like those postdocs trying to get a new investigator program, and it's 5 years for tenure track, like on that when they get this. Also, there is a cap for how many years you have worked after PhD. That would be 12 years. Like in any positions, if you are 12 years after your graduation or PhD, then you cannot apply for new investigator.
And I just put in the chat, Jim, a link to a frequently asked question. On that question, I put a link to frequently asked questions about new investigator awards that might be helpful for people as well.
And we also have a webinar every time from NIFA on new investigator, and you might also go into last year's listening session on that.
Yep.
Very good. Well, I don't see any other questions. So at this point, we have about 5 minutes left. I think I'll just go around to each of the presenters to see if any of you have any additional points that you have thought of that you'd like to make? And at that point, we can probably wrap this up. So let's go in the order of presentations to start with Mathieu.
Yes, Jim. The only other thing that I will do here, I mean, still send the pitch there for the organic program. I mean, there's clearly an opportunity there, and we clearly have a lot of money, and the needs is there for weed science research. So I will really encourage people to take a look at, competing for some of those programs. And going back to new investigator, if someone is new, can meet the criteria, please check that box when you submit your proposal. It gives you additional opportunity to get funded. Like one of our colleagues was saying, it offers you the opportunity for a second bite at our funding opportunity. So it gives you a second chance. Go for it and share that with your graduate student or your colleagues. There's also a seed grant. We have extended seed grants to all institutions. It only used to be those from EBSCO state or small and mid-sized institutions. It has been expanded to everyone. Michigan State couldn't qualify for a seed grant. Faculty there now can qualify under the new conditions now for new investigators seed grant. So encourage your colleagues to apply for those, because our agency really want to fund more of those new investigators, because we think that is where the future is.
Thank you, Mathieu. Ganesh, any final comments?
Sure. As I mentioned in the presentation, in addition to NIFA grants, and you might also look into NSF, which are funding on smart farming, and like AI Institute is coming through NSF, but we do the panel and funding, robotic initiative, which is one of the important parts of precision weed management, also cyber physical systems. So those are NSF program, but NIFA administered those. In addition to those, what Matt said, like I'd also encourage the investigators to go into partnership, which is partnering with Minority Serving Institute would give you 150,000 extra in addition to 650. Also in partnering with international institutes would give you another 150,000. So partnering with EBSCO state or MSI or international partners would give you 650 plus 150. That's another avenue you should look into.
Good, thank you, Ganesh. Vance, any final comments?
Just one quick thing. I just encourage everybody to make sure that you go to the regional websites for SARE, speaking specifically about that program. The thought occurred to me, for example, that the Western region instituted a new grant program, I think it was 2 years ago, called a sabbatic grant, where people who are outside the region even can apply to come and work with somebody in the Western region, for part of a sabbatical. And so there's some really unique things, I think, at each region that people can look into, that every one of which can have a weed component to it.
Good, thank you, Vance. And Vijay.
Yeah, two final comments. I put the name of the NPL in charge of workforce development and educational programs, Dr. Ray Ali. I put it in the chat. And one other comment, I encourage WSSA membership to explore transdisciplinary research proposals, and 2 or 3 main topics that have a better chance of getting funding are cover crops, precision ag, that includes robotics, UAVs, and also integrated weed management approaches. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you, Vijay. Well, on behalf of the Weed Science Society of America, thank you for attending today's webinar. And a special thank you to our 4 presenters. please plan to attend the second webinar, which will be a week from today, same time, Tuesday, March 29. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you.